Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel where we break down the key moments in the history that shaped our nations. Today, we are diving into the chapter 5 of the book History of Operations 1947-48 by S.N. Prasad and Dharampal. Friends, this chapter is all about intense and the strategic planning that happened at the very heart of the Indian Army Headquarter during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1947-48. Friends, picture this. The war is raging, the stakes are high, and every decision made at the Army Headquarter could change the fate of the nation. And in this video, friends, we are going behind the scene to see how the Indian military masterminds coordinated the relief operations in Jammu, countered enemy threats, and tackled the tough terrain and the freezing winter conditions. We'll also touch on how the Defense Committee of the Cabinet played a key role in how strategic discussions and planning at the top levels ensured that the Indian Army stayed one step ahead. Friends, if you're curious about how these plans came together to secure victory, stick around and this is going to be an eye-opener. With this much of intro, friends, let's start and jump into the topic. We'll start with Indo-Pakistan War strategy. Friends, again welcome to the history enthusiast and welcome back to the channel where we unravel the untold stories and strategies that shaped our nation's history. Today we are diving into one of the most crucial and intense chapters of the Indian past, the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistan War. But hold on, we are not just talking about the usual battle and the border skirmishes. Friends, we are going deep into the heart of the conflict, where every decision, every move, and every strategy played a vital role in the outcome of the war. Friends, in this video, we'll take you through the relief operations in the Jammu sector, where the Indian Army courage and the tactical brilliance shone brightly. We'll be dissecting the war balance sheet to understand what both sides gained and they lost, and how these gains and the threats shaped the conflict. Friends, curious about the Indian military positions, how it was established, we have got you covered. Ever wondered, friends, what was the happening behind the closed doors? The Defense Committee of the Cabinet made some of the toughest decisions, and we are going to explore how their strategic discussions influenced the entire war effort. We'll also dive into the factors affecting operations, including the harsh winter conditions and the challenging terrain that forced both sides to adapt. But that's not all. We'll talk all about the forces required to maintain the dominance, the administrative difficulties faced during the war, and the conclusion and the action that determine the future of the region. Friends, by the end of this video, you will have a comprehensive understanding of the strategies and the decisions that shaped one of the most critical conflict in the Indian history. So stay tuned, because we are about to embark the journey through the intricate strategies, the fierce battle, and the behind-the-scene decisions that changed the course of the history. So let's get started. Let's move ahead and let's discuss about the first topic, that is about the balance sheet. Friends, in this the first thing we're going to discuss about the successful relief of Kotli. Friends, in this section we are going to talk about a significant victory that really showcased the strength and the strategic brilliance of the Indian Army. That is the successful relief of Kotli. Friends, the Kotli was under the siege by Pakistani forces and the situation was getting dire. But the Indian Army was not about to let Kotli fall into the enemy hands. And against all odds, whether it was the tough terrain, harsh weather, or the pressure of the seas, the Indian soldiers managed to lift the siege and secure Kotli. If this so, friends, what do you think was the key factor that helped the Indian Army succeed in this mission? Was it their training, their spirit, or something else? Friends, please do comment in the comment section. Moving ahead, friends, this victory was not just a military success, it was a morale booster for the entire nation. It showed that the Indian Army had the tactical skills and the resilience to face any challenges head on. Imagine the relief and the pride among the troops and the people of the Kotli when they saw their heroes marching in and bringing safety and hope. Friends, the relief of Kotli was a clear example of how strategy, determination, and bravery can turn the tide in the most challenging situation. It is one of those moments in the history that remind us of the incredible capabilities of our armed forces. Next, we are going to discuss about the impact of winter condition, that is, winter warfare. Now let's talk about something that added an extra layer of difficulty to the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the harsh winter conditions. Imagine being a soldier, not only fighting the enemy but also battling the freezing temperature, icy winds and snow-covered terrains. It was not just about strategy and firepower, it was about surviving the elements. When winter sets in, it's created massive logistical and operational challenges for both sides. Moving troops, keeping supplies flowing, and maintaining communication lines became incredibly difficult. But here is where the Indian forces really showed their mettle. They were better prepared, better equipped, and better trained to handle the winter warmth. Friends, do you think that have you ever faced a situation where you had to adapt quickly to the harsh conditions? How do you manage to overcome it? While the enemy struggled with the biting cold, the Indian army used their strategic advantage to keep pushing forward. They knew that winning in these conditions was not just about fighting, it was about surviving, adapting, and outlasting the enemy. And this ability to adapt to the environment while maintaining their focus on the mission was a key factor in their success. Friends, winter was not just a season, it was a battlefield in itself. And in this battle, the Indian forces proved that they could not only stand their ground but also turn the cold into an advantage. And this resilience and adaptability were crucial in maintaining their strategic edge. Next, about the Indian forces' strategic advantage. Friends, in any war, having the right strategy can make all the differences. And during the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistan War, the Indian army proved just that. Let's dive into how Indian forces turned the tide through strategic advantage that left the Pakistani forces scrambling. The Indian army didn't just rely on the brute force, they used effective deployment of resources to outsmart the enemy. And this was not just about having more troops or better equipment, it was about using what they had in the smartest way possible. They positioned their forces in the key areas, ensuring that they could both defend and attack with precision. If you were in the charge of deploying resources in the critical situations, friends, what factors would you consider to ensure the success? Please do answer in the comment section. As the battle dynamics changed, sometimes rapidly, the Indian forces showed an incredible ability to adapt. They didn't stick to the rigid plan. Instead, they adjusted their strategies on the fly, making quick decisions that helped them to stay one step ahead of the Pakistani forces. And this adaptability was the key in consolidating control over crucial regions. And by securing these key areas, the Indian army didn't just defend their territory, they actively denied the Pakistani forces their objectives. Every time the enemy tried to make a move, they found the Indian forces ready and waiting, well prepared to counter any advances. This was not just a battle of soldiers, it was a battle of wits and strategy. The Indian Army ability to deploy resources effectively and adapt to the ever-changing conditions on the ground was a major reason why they were able to maintain control and keep the enemy at bay. It's a lesson in how strategic thinking and flexibility can lead to victory. Moving further ahead, and we'll discuss about some enemy gains in the threats. Friends, the first is about the enemy threat presence in the Gilgit-Baltistan. Now let's talk about one of the significant challenges faced by the Indian forces during the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistan War, that is the enemy presence in the Gilgit-Baltistan. And this was not just any region. Friends, Gilgit-Baltistan was and still is a strategically crucial area. So why was this region so important? Well, the enemy's control over Gilgit-Baltistan posed a serious threat to the India's communication lines and access to the critical supply routes. Imagine trying to keep your troops well supplied and informed while the enemy is sitting right on your supply lines, ready to disrupt your operations at any moment. Friends, if this is so, what do you think make controlling certain regions so crucial in a war? How do you think it's impact the overall strategy? Friends, you might notice that I'm throwing in a few questions as we go along. That's because I want this to be more than just me talking at you. I want us to really think through these ideas together. Asking questions help us to dig deeper into the material and make the content more engaging and interactive. Plus, it gives you a chance to share your own thoughts and perspectives, which can lead to some great discussions in the comments. So friends, feel free to jump in and share what you think. So moving back to the enemy presence in the Gilgit-Baltistan, friends, the situation was not just a headache, it was a potential game changer. The enemy could use this position in the Gilgit-Baltistan to launch attacks, cut off vital routes, and make it incredibly difficult for the Indian forces to move reinforcement or supplies to the front lines. The enemy's control over Gilgit-Baltistan was more than just a territorial gain. It was a strategic threat that had the potential to turn the tide of the war. Understanding the importance of such region help us see how geography and control of key areas play a massive role in military strategy. Moving next we'll discuss about threat from Muzaffarabad and Rajouri. Friends, in our exploration of 1947-48 Indo-Pakistan War, we have seen how the geography of the region played a crucial role in the conflict. Now let's focus on the two critical locations, that is Muzaffarabad and Rajouri, where the enemy presence posed significant threat to the Indian operations. Imagine friends, you are in the middle of a tense situation and trying to move troops and supplies to the front lines. Suddenly you realize that the enemy is not just attacking but also strategically positioned in places like Muzaffarabad and Rajouri. And this was not just a minor inconvenience, it was a serious threat to the Indian logistics. If this is so, then friends, why do you think controlling specific locations like Muzaffarabad and Rajouri was so crucial for both sides? How does this impact the overall war effort? Friends, these regions were like pressure points of the battlefield. The enemy's presence here allowed them to disrupt the movement of Indian troops and supplies along the line of control. Every time the Indian forces tried to send reinforcement or essential supplies to these positions, they had to deal with the constant threat of attacks from these strategic locations. And this was not just about fighting a war, it was about ensuring that the soldiers on the front line had what they need to keep fighting. The enemy's ability to hinder troop movement and supply lines from Muzaffarabad and Rajouri created a complex challenge for the Indian forces, forcing them to think creatively and act swiftly to maintain their operational momentum. Friends, Muzaffarabad and Rajouri were not just names on a map, they were critical points that could make or break the Indian war effort. The enemy's control over these areas highlighted the importance of securing key locations to protect vital logistics and ensure the smooth movement of troops and supplies. Moving next we'll discuss about vulnerability of Mender sector. Friends, as we delve deeper into the strategic challenges faced during the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistan War, let's turn our attention to the Mender sector. Friends, Menda was not just another location on the map, it was a vital communication hub for the Indian forces. But with the enemy lurking dangerously close, this sector was under constant threat. Imagine being in charge of crucial communications that keep the entire operation running smoothly. Now picture the enemy being just a stone's throw away, ready to strike at any moment. So the proximity of enemy forces to Menda was not merely a tactical concern. It was a looming danger that could jeopardize the overall operational capabilities of the Indian Army. Friends, how important do you think the secure communication lines are in the context of military operations? Can you draw parallel to any modern scenario where communication plays a pivotal role? Friends, the risk to the Menda meant that any disruption here could lead to the breakdowns in coordination, delayed responses, and a potential cascade of setbacks on the battlefield. Ensuring the security of the sector was paramount. The Indian forces had to be on a constant alert, fortifying defenses and preparing for any sudden attacks aimed at crippling their communication infrastructure. So friends, the vulnerability of the Menda sector served as a stark reminder of how crucial secure communication is in warfare. And protecting such hubs is not just about safeguarding a location, it is about preserving the lifeline that keep the entire military operations cohesive and effective. Moving next we'll discuss about some Indian military positions. First is about Headquarter Jammu and Kashmir Division. Friends, as we delve into the strategic intricacies of 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, one element that stands out as a heart of the Indian military effort is the Headquarters Jammu and Kashmir Division. This was not just another military office, it was the central command hub that orchestrated the entire operation in the region. Friends, imagine you are the director of a massive high-stakes movie production and you are not just overseeing one scene, you are coordinating the entire film, ensuring that every actor, every camera and every special effect work together seamlessly. That's what the Headquarter Jammu and Kashmir Division did for the Indian Army. They were not just giving orders, they were ensuring that every troop movement, every supply line and every strategic decisions was perfectly aligned to achieve the overall mission. So friends, in your opinion, how important is it to have a well-coordinated command center during a complex operation? Can you think of modern examples where centralized control is crucial to success? Friends, the headquarters was responsible for coordinating all military operations and logistics in the challenging terrain of Jammu and Kashmir. Their ability to maintain effective command and control was crucial, ensuring that Indian forces could respond quickly and efficiently to any situation on the ground. The success of the entire operation depended on the decision made here. Friends, the Headquarter Jammu and Kashmir Division was more than just a command post. It was the nerve center of the Indian military effort in the region. Their role in coordinating operations and logistics was vital to maintaining the cohesion and effectiveness of the Indian forces, ensuring that every move was calculated, precise, and in sync with overall strategy. Moving next we'll talk about the Srinagar garrison. Friends, as we explored the key elements of the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, one location that played a pivotal role in the Indian military strategy is the Srinagar garrison. This was not just a military base, it was a strategic stronghold that allowed Indian troops to stay ready, respond quickly, and maintain a strong defense along the line of control. Friends, imagine you are running a business where your success depends on how quickly you can respond to the challenges. You would want your main office to be in the prime location, right? Somewhere that gives you an easy access to your resources and allow you to act fast. That's exactly what the Srinagar garrison did for the Indian Army. It was their base of operation, perfectly positioned to enable rapid deployment of the troops whenever a threat emerged. Friends, why do you think having a strategically located base like the Srinagar garrison is crucial during a conflict? Can you think of any modern scenario where being able to respond quickly is key to success? Friends, the garrison location was not chosen by accident. It was strategically placed to allow Indian forces to keep a close watch on the LOC and to launch swift responses to any emerging threat. And this ability to deploy troops quickly from Srinagar was a game changer, ensuring that the Indian army could maintain control and stability in the region. Friends, the Srinagar garrison was more than just a base, it was the strategic backbone of the Indian military operation during the conflict. Its role in enabling rapid deployment and maintaining a constant state of readiness was crucial in ensuring that Indian forces could meet and counter any threat along the LOC with speed and precision. Moving next we'll talk about the deployment of 161 Brigade, 50 Para Brigade and 268 Brigade. Friends, as we delve into the strategic decision made during 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the deployment of 161 Brigade, 50 Para Brigade and 268 Brigade stands out as a key move that significantly boosted the Indian Army tactical capabilities. And this was not just about placing troops on the ground, it was a careful thought out strategy to ensure that the Indian forces could respond swiftly and effectively to any threat. Friends, in a game, if to win the game, you need to place your best players in the right positions on the field, ensuring that you have both a strong offense and a solid defense. Similarly, the deployment of 3 brigades was like positioning top players in the critical spot on the battlefield. Talking about 161 Brigade, friends, 161 Brigade was the backbone, providing the strength and the stability needed in the key areas. Talking about the 50 Para Brigade, friends, 50 Para Brigade brought in airborne units like the star players who can cover ground quickly and adapt to the changing situations in the real time. And about 268 Brigade, friends, it added specialized infantry units, enhancing the Indian Army's ability to conduct targeted operations and respond to the enemy movements with precision. If this be the case, friends, how important do you think that it is to have a specialized unit in the key positions during the military operation? Can you relate this to any modern day scenarios where strategic placement is crucial? By placing these brigades, friends, in a strategic location, the Indian Army was not just preparing a defensive stance, they were setting themselves up for proactive targeted operations. And this deployment meant that the army could respond quickly to any enemy movement, launch offensives where needed, and maintain a strong presence across critical areas. Friends, the deployment of 161 Brigade, 50 Para Brigade and 268 Brigade was a strategic masterstroke that significantly enhanced the Indian Army's tactical capabilities. And by positioning specialized infantry and airborne units in key locations, the Indian forces were better equipped to conduct precise operations and respond swiftly to any threat, ensuring a stronger and more flexible defense. Moving next we'll talk about Defense Committee of the Cabinet. Friends, as we dive into the key decisions that shaped the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, one critical move was made by the Defense Committee of the Cabinet, the decision to prioritize Kashmir's security. And this was not just another policy decision, it was a recognition of Kashmir's strategic importance and the urgent need to safeguard it from external threat. Friends, imagine you are protecting your own home from potential danger. You know that certain areas are more vulnerable than others, so you focus your resources there, ensuring they are well guarded. And that's exactly what the Defense Committee did. They understood that the Kashmir was not just a beautiful region, it was a key strategic location that needed to be secured at all costs. Then friends, why do you think that Kashmir was considered so strategically important during this time? What makes a region strategically significant in a conflict? Please answer your thought in the comment section below. Try to answer this question, friends. This will help you out in order to understand the topic in much more better way. Friends, the committee recognition of the Kashmir importance led to decisive action to strengthen its defenses and protect it from any potential invasions. And this was not just about military might, it was about ensuring that Kashmir remained secure, which in turn safeguarded the broader interest of the nation. The Defense Committee of the Cabinet decision to prioritize Kashmir's security was a crucial step in the 1947-48 conflict. And by recognizing the region's strategic importance and taking steps to defend it from external threat, the committee ensured that the Kashmir remained a focal point of India's national security strategy. And this decision, friends, not only shaped the course of the conflict but also highlighted the significance of proactive defense in maintaining national security. Moving next, friends, in the midst of 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, one of the most critical steps taken by the Indian leadership was to define clear goals for the Indian Army. And this was not just about sending troops into the battle, it was about outlining specific strategic objectives that would help the Indian Army achieve the military dominance and consolidate control over key areas. Friends, imagine you are leading a team on a complex project. Success is not just about working hard, it is about knowing exactly what you need to accomplish. And you need clear goals, a roadmap, and a strategy to guide every action. And that's exactly what the Indian leadership provided to the army. They didn't just say win the war, they outlined precise objectives that army needed to achieve to secure a decisive advantage. Friends, how important do you think that it is to have a clear, specific objectives in a military campaign or even in the everyday projects? Can you relate this to any situations where clear goals made a difference? Please do answer your thought in the comment section. Friends, these objectives included not just defending key positions but also expanding control over strategically important areas. And by setting these goals, the Indian Army had a clear direction, ensuring that every operation, every movement was part of a larger strategy aimed at consolidating control and weakening the enemy's position. Friends, the decision to define clear objective for the Indian Army was a strategic masterstroke that helped to guide the Indian forces toward military dominance during this conflict. And by setting specific goals, friends, the leadership ensured that the army was focused, coordinated, and moving towards a common purpose, securing the key areas and consolidating control to achieve overall success in the war. Moving next, friends, during the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, one of the most crucial decisions made by the Indian military leaders was to mobilize the specialized forces. And this was not just about increasing troop numbers, it was about deploying elite infantry and airborne units, and that could significantly enhance the Indian Army tactical capabilities and respond swiftly to the enemy's movement. Friends, imagine you are in a high-stakes game where your success depends not just on having many players, but on having the best player in the right position. That's what the Indian Army did by deploying these specialized forces. They brought in the most skilled, agile, and well-trained units. Those who could adapt quickly to the changing dynamics of the battlefield and turn the tide in India's favor. Friends, why do you think that elite units like specialized infantry and airborne forces are so crucial in the military operation? Can you think of any situation, present war scenarios, where Having a highly skilled team made all the differences. Friends, these elite units were positioned strategically to enhance the army's ability to conduct targeted operations and react quickly to the enemy's maneuver. And their presence, friends, on the battlefield was not just a show of strength, it was a tactical move designed to keep the enemy on their toes and ensure that Indian forces could maintain the upper hand in the critical areas. The decision to mobilize specialized forces was a game changer in 1947-48 conflict. So by deploying elite infantry and airborne units, the Indian Army significantly boosted its tactical edge, ensuring that it could respond effectively to enemy movements and maintain control over key areas. This move, friends, was not just about numbers, it was about precision, skill, and the ability to adapt quickly to the challenges of the battlefield. Moving next we'll talk about the strategic discussions. Friends, in a high-stake environment of the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, one of the most important tasks undertaken by Indian military leadership was the comprehensive assessment of enemy's capability. This was not just about knowing who they were up against, it was a deep dive into the understanding the enemy's strength, tactics, and presence in critical areas. Friends, the Joint Planning Staff played a crucial role in this process, conducting thorough analysis that provided the Indian Army with the insight needed to craft effective counter strategies. Friends, imagine you are preparing for a major competition. You wouldn't just focus on your own skill, you would also study your opponents closely. You would want to know their strength, weaknesses, and strategies so you could outmaneuver them. And that's exactly what the Indian Army did. By gaining a clear picture of the enemy's ability, they were able to anticipate moves, avoid potential pitfalls, and position themselves to respond effectively. Friends, how important do you think it is to understand your opponent's strength and weaknesses before making a move? Can you think of situations, either in sports, businesses, or life, where knowing your competition gave you an edge? Friends, this comprehensive assessment allowed the Indian Army to not only defend the key positions but also to plan and execute counter strategies that could outsmart and outmaneuver the enemy. The detailed understanding of the enemy's capability meant that the Indian forces could stay one step ahead, turning potential disadvantages into the opportunities or decisive action. Friends, the comprehensive assessment of the enemy capabilities conducted by the Joint Planning Staff was a critical component of Indian Army strategy during 1947-48 conflict. And by thoroughly analyzing the enemy's strength and tactics, the Indian forces were able to develop and implement counter strategies that enhance their effectiveness on the battlefield. And this approach, friends, highlights the importance of preparation and intelligence in achieving the military success. Moving next we'll discuss about the addressing climate and the terrain challenges, that is adapting to the nature's obstacles. Friends, in 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the Indian Army was not just up against an armed enemy. They were also battling the formidable forces of the nature. The Joint Planning Staff recognized early on that the harsh winter conditions and the challenging terrain of Jammu and Kashmir would pose significant logistical and operational challenges. This was not a battle that could be won with sheer force alone. It required careful planning and adaptability. Friends, imagine trying to navigate through a dense forest on a stormy night. You would not just need a good map, you would need specialized gear and skill to make it through safely. This is exactly what the Joint Planning Staff recommended. They understood that the usual strategies and the unit wouldn't suffice in such extreme conditions. Instead, they advocated for the deployment of specialized units. Troops who were not only trained for combat but also equipped to handle the freezing temperature, treacherous mountain and unpredictable weather. Friends, how important do you think that it is to adapt to the environmental challenges in the military operation? Can you think of any situation where being prepared for the natural obstacles made all the differences? Friends, the harsh winter in the region was not just a backdrop, it was a formidable opponent in itself. And the cold could immobilize troops, the snow could block the supply routes, and the rugged terrain could make the movement slow and dangerous. And by deploying specialized units capable of adapting to these conditions, friends, the Indian Army ensured that they could continue their operations effectively despite the challenges posed by the nature. And this decision, friends, to address the climatic and terrain challenges was a testament to the Indian Army adaptability and strategic foresight. The Joint Planning Staff recommendation to deploy specialized units allowed the Army to overcome the logistical and operational hurdles posed by the harsh environment, ensuring that their operation remained effective and resilient. And this approach, friends, highlight the importance of preparation and adaptability when facing both natural and human adversities. Moving next, friends, we'll talk about mobilization of necessary forces. Friends, in the critical stage of 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the Joint Planning Staff played a pivotal role in shaping the Indian Army's success by carefully mobilizing the necessary forces. And this was not just about gathering troops, it was about identifying the exact force composition needed to achieve the Indian Army objective and maintain military dominance in the region. Friends, the Joint Planning Staff didn't just deploy any troops, they identified the need for elite infantry and airborne units, specialized forces that could tackle the unique challenges of the region with precision and effectiveness. Friends, why do you think that it is important to carefully select the right mix of forces in a military operation? Friends, can you think of any scenario where having the right team made a critical differences? Friends, please answer all these questions in the comment section. It will help you to understand the topic better. Moving ahead, these elite units were chosen for their ability to operate in difficult terrain, conduct targeted operations, and respond swiftly to any enemy movement. And the inclusion of airborne units added a layer of agility and flexibility, allowing the Indian Army to strike quickly and decisively no matter where the enemy was positioned. Friends, the mobilization of necessary forces by the Joint Planning Staff was a strategic move that ensured that the Indian Army had the right mix of skills and capabilities to dominate the battlefield. And by carefully selecting and deploying the elite infantry and airborne units, the Indian forces were able to achieve their objectives with precision and maintain a strong, resilient presence in the region. And this approach underscored the importance of strategic planning and the value of having a well-composed team in any high-stakes endeavor. Moving next, we'll talk about factors affecting operation. Friends, during 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, both sides faced a formidable adversary, and that was just as challenging as our opposing forces: the severe winter condition. In Jammu and Kashmir, friends, the harsh winter weather was not just an inconvenience, it posed significant logistical and operational challenges that could make or break the military efforts. However, friends, the Indian forces, well prepared and strategically equipped, managed to adapt to these conditions and even use them to maintain their strategic advantage. Friends, the race would suddenly become less about speed and more about the endurance and preparation and the ability to withstand the element. That's what the Indian forces were up against. The freezing temperature, heavy snowfall, treacherous terrain could have stalled operations, but instead they rose to the challenge. Friends, how do you think that the severe weather condition can impact the military operation? Think of any real situation, friends, where being prepared for the harsh condition gave someone an edge. Friends, the Indian forces were better equipped to handle these conditions because of their foresight and preparation, and they had the right clothing, gear, and logistical support to keep their troops warm, fed, and ready to fight. And this preparation, friends, meant that while the enemy struggled with the cold, the Indian Army could continue its operation with minimal disruption, turning a potential disadvantage into a powerful strategic edge. Friends, the severe winter condition in Jammu and Kashmir were a significant challenge, but the Indian forces' ability to adapt and prepare allowed them to maintain their strategic advantage. And this situation highlights the importance of being well equipped and prepared to face not just the enemy but also the harsh reality of nature. And by outlasting both the cold and their opponents, the Indian Army demonstrated that the true strength lies not just in the numbers but in resilience and adaptability. Moving next we'll talk about the limited air operation. During the Indo-Pak War of 1947-48, friends, the Indian forces faced a significant challenge, that is limited air operation. The combination of difficult terrain and adverse weather conditions in Jammu and Kashmir made it nearly impossible to conduct effective air missions. And this was not just a minor setback. Friends, it forced the Indian Army to rethink their strategy and rely more heavily on their ground forces and specialized units to achieve their objectives. Friends, imagine you are playing a video game where one of your most powerful abilities suddenly become unavailable due to unforeseen circumstances. You cannot use your go-to strategy anymore. Instead, you have to get creative and use the resources at hand to find a new way to win. And that's what the Indian Army had to do when air support became unreliable. Friends, do you think that losing the ability to rely on air operations would affect a military campaign? Please do answer. Friends, do you think that any instances where adapting to the limitations led to unexpected success? Without the ability to fully utilize the air support, the Indian forces turned their ground troops and specialized units to carry out the crucial operations. And these forces had to navigate the rugged terrain, often under harsh weather conditions, to maintain the momentum of their campaign. And the situation demanded flexibility, resourcefulness, and a deep understanding of the terrain, qualities that the Indian Army displayed with remarkable effectiveness. Friends, the limited air operations during the 1947-48 conflict presented a daunting challenge, but the Indian Army ability to adapt by relying on their ground forces and specialized units allowed them to continue advancing toward their objectives. And this scenario, friends, underscored the importance of resilience and adaptability in warfare. When one avenue is closed, it's its ability to pivot and find the alternative strategies that often determine the success. Moving next we'll talk about the importance of key communication routes. Friends, in the 1947-48 war, controlling the key communication routes was not just a tactical advantage. It was a strategic necessity. Routes through the region like Gilgit-Baltistan along the line of control were vital for the Indian Army to maintain its supply lines, effectively deploy troops, and ensure the overall success of their operation. And the importance of these routes, friends, highlighted the need for a comprehensive defense strategy that prioritized their control. Friends, Imagine you are managing a complex delivery system where every package needs to reach its destination on time. And now imagine that the roads and highways you depend on are under constant threat of being blocked or taken over by competitors. So your entire operation hinges on keeping those routes open and secure. And that's what the Indian Army faced with these critical communication routes. Friends, why do you think that the controlling key communication routes is so crucial in the military conflict? Can you relate this to any situation where maintaining access to vital paths or channels were essential? Friends, please do answer this thing into the comment section. Moving ahead, these routes, friends, were not just paths for the moving troops. They were the lifeline of the military operation. They allowed for the continuous flow of supplies, food, ammunition, reinforcement, and enabled the rapid deployment of the troops to where they were needed most. And losing control of these routes would have meant severe disruption, potentially crippling the army's ability to sustain its effort in the region. Friends, the control of the key communication routes was a critical aspect of the Indian Army strategy during the 1947-48 conflict. And by ensuring these routes remain open and secure, the army could maintain its supply lines and effectively manage troops' movement. And this control was essential for sustaining the military campaign and underscored the need for a well-planned and comprehensive defense strategy that considered not just the enemy but also the geography and infrastructure critical to the war effort. Moving next we'll talk about the forces requirement of the forces. Friends, in 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the deployment of 4 infantry brigade group was a crucial move by the Indian Army to strengthen their ground forces presence and enhance their tactical capabilities in key sectors along the line of control. And this strategic decision was not just about increasing numbers on the battlefield, it was about creating a robust and a flexible force that could effectively respond to any threats and maintain control over critical areas. Friends, imagine you are playing a game of a chess and you decide to bring in more knights and rooks to protect your king and dominate the center of the board. And this additional piece gives you the flexibility to defend, attack, and control the most important squares. Similarly, deployment of these brigade groups provide the Indian Army with the strength needed to secure and control vital sectors along the LOC. Friends, how do you think that the increasing the ground force presence in key areas can influence the outcome of the military conflict? Just relate one situation where having more resources in critical spot make a big difference. Friends, these infantry brigade groups was strategically positioned to reinforce the Indian Army, hold on important sectors, and ensuring that they could respond swiftly to any enemy movement and maintain a strong defensive line. These deployments not only enhanced the army's ability to protect its position but also provided the necessary force to launch tactical offensive when needed, thereby keeping the enemy on the defensive. Friends, the deployment of 4 infantry brigade group was a pivotal step in bolstering the Indian Army's ground force strength along the line of control. And by reinforcing their presence in key sector, the Indian Army enhanced its tactical capabilities, ensuring that they could maintain control and respond effectively to any challenges. And this move was essential for maintaining a strong and a resilient defense as well as for seizing opportunities to gain the upper hand in the conflict. Next, we'll talk about the critical control. Friends, during the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the Indian Army strategic positioning in Jammu, Nowshera, Mirpur, Kotli was a master stroke in military planning. So by securing these key areas, friends, the Indian forces were able to control vital communication routes and importantly deny the enemy access to the strategic areas. And this move significantly bolstered the Indian defense posture and ensured that enemy's movement were effectively contained. Friends, this is exactly what the Indian Army accomplished with its strategic positioning in the critical sector. The location of Jammu, Naushera, Mirpur, Kotli were not chosen by chance. These critical areas were critical because they provided access to the important communication routes that were essential for maintaining supply lines, troop movement, and overall operational coordination. Friends, how do you think that the controlling the strategic areas can influence the outcome of a military campaign? Can you draw parallels to the situation where securing key positions played a crucial role in the success? Friends, by controlling these areas, the Indian Army could ensure that their forces remained well supported and the enemy was kept at bay, unable to exploit these strategic routes. The strategic positioning in Jammu, Naushera, Mirpur, Kotli was a decisive move that helped the Indian Army secure control over the essential communication routes while denying the enemy access to the critical areas. And this positioning was key to the bolstering Indian defenses capabilities, ensuring that Indian forces could maintain a strong posture and effectively counter any threat. The importance of controlling such strategic locations cannot be overstated, as it plays a vital role in the success of any military campaign. Next, we'll talk about the reinforcement of the Srinagar, Uri, Poonch areas. This was a crucial decision that significantly enhanced the Indian Army ability to respond rapidly to the emerging threat and maintain operational dominance in the Kashmir region. These reinforcements were not just about adding more troops, they were about fortifying critical areas to ensure the Indian forces could stay ahead of the enemy. Friends, by reinforcing these positions, you are not only protecting what you already have, but also ensuring that you can quickly strike back if the enemy tries to advance. And that's what the Indian Army achieved by reinforcing Srinagar and Uri Poonch areas. Friends, Srinagar as the capital of Jammu and Kashmir was vital not just symbolically but strategically. Friends, why do you think that reinforcing the key areas is essential for maintaining dominance in the conflict? Just relate with some examples where timely reinforcement turned the tide in the situation. Friends, ensuring its security meant that Indian Army could maintain a strong command and control center in the region. Similarly, the Uri Poonch areas were critical because they were vulnerable to the enemy advances. And by reinforcing these areas, the Indian Army ensured that they could react swiftly to any threat, keeping the enemy off balance and maintaining a strong defensive and offensive posture. The reinforcement of Srinagar and Uri Poonch areas was a strategic move that bolstered the Indian Army ability to respond quickly to any emerging threats, ensuring that they could maintain operational dominance in the Kashmir region. And this decision played a key role in keeping the region secure and under Indian control, highlighting the importance of reinforcing key positions to sustain momentum and protect critical areas in any conflict. Moving next we'll talk about administrative difficulties. Friends, one of the biggest challenges faced by the Indian Army was not just the enemy forces, but the harsh winter condition and difficult terrain in Kashmir region. These factors, friends, pose significant logistical challenges in maintaining supply lines and effectively deploying troops. The difficulty condition tested in the army ability to keep their forces well equipped and ready for action. Taking an example, friends, imagine trying to run a marathon, but every few miles the road is blocked by snowdrift, and your support team has to struggle to get your food and water. This is what the Indian Army faced in Kashmir. Every move they made was hampered by the environment. The extreme cold, snow-covered passes, rugged mountains made it incredibly hard to transport supplies and keep the troops well-fed, clothed and equipped. Friends, how do you think that the logistical challenges like these affect the morale and effectiveness of the troops? Just relate with some real-life situations where overcoming tough situations was essential for the success. Friends, the winter in the Kashmir was not just cold, it was brutal with temperatures dropping so low that even basic tasks become a challenge. The terrain with its steep mountains and narrow passes made it nearly impossible to move large amount of supplies quickly. And despite these difficulties, the Indian Army had to ensure that their soldiers were well supplied and the reinforcements could reach the front lines without delay. And overcoming these administrative difficulties required ingenuity, resilience, and the relentless determination. The administrative difficulties of maintaining and supplying troops in harsh winter conditions and the difficult terrain of Kashmir were some of the most formidable challenges faced during the 1947-48 conflict. And these logistical challenges, friends, tested the Indian Army ability to keep their force operational and effective. Somewhat successful navigating these challenges was crucial to maintaining the momentum of their campaign and ensuring that their troops remained strong and ready to face the enemy. Friends, moving next we'll talk about the limited ability to the stock supplies. Friends, during the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the Indian Army faced a significant challenge: the limited ability to stock and distribute the necessary supplies due to restricted air operation. The adverse weather and the rugged terrain of the Kashmir region made it incredibly difficult to maintain a steady flow of the supplies to the front lines. And this situation, friends, forced the Indian Army to rethink its approach and develop a more comprehensive defense strategy to adapt to these constraints. Friends, imagine you are managing a remote outpost where your team relies on the regular supply drops to stay operational. Suddenly, bad weather ground the helicopter and your supply chain is cut off. You are now faced with the challenges of stretching your resources and finding the new way to keep everyone supplied. And this is what the Indian Army experienced when air operations were severely limited by the harsh condition. Friends, how do you think a limited ability to stock and distribute supplies impact the effectiveness of military operation? Just relate with some situation, friends, of any situation where adapting to supply challenges was crucial for success. Friends, with the air routes unreliable, the Indian Army had to rely more on the ground-based logistics, which were also hindered by the difficult terrain. And this required meticulous planning and creative solutions to ensure that troops received the essential supplies they needed, from ammunition to food and medical supplies. The army had to be strategic in how they used their limited resources, ensuring that every bit of supply was used efficiently and effectively. The limited ability to stock supplies due to the restricted air operations highlighted the need for a comprehensive defense strategy and that could adapt to the challenges of adverse weather and difficult terrain. And this situation underscored the importance of flexibility and resourcefulness in military logistics. By rethinking their supply chain and making the most of what they had, the Indian Army was able to continue its operations despite the severe limitations imposed by the environment. Next, we'll talk about the vulnerability of supply routes, one of the most critical challenges faced by the Indian Army. Friends, the enemy presence in the strategic locations such as Gilgit-Baltistan and along the line of control posed a significant threat to the security of these vital communication and supply lines. And these routes were the lifelines of the Indian military operations, and any disruption could jeopardize the army ability to sustain its effort in the region. Friends, imagine you are managing a crucial project and your team relies on a steady stream of resources to keep things moving. And now imagine that a rival group is trying to cut off your access to these resources, putting your entire operation at risk. And this is exactly what the Indian Army faced when the enemy threatened these key supply routes. Friends, how important do you think that it is to secure supply routes in a military operation? Can you think of any situation where protecting a critical pathway was essential for the success? Friends, the strategic locations of Gilgit-Baltistan, an area along the line of control, were not just points on the map. They were the checkpoints that the enemy could use to disrupt the flow of supplies. And if these routes were compromised, it would mean delay in getting essential items like ammunition, food, and the medical supplies to the front lines, potentially weakening the Indian Army ability to maintain its position and launch counter-offensives. Friends, the vulnerability of supply routes due to the enemy's presence in the strategic locations like Gilgit-Baltistan and along the line of control highlight a major risk of the Indian Army during the 1947-48 conflict. And securing these routes was not just important, it was essential for sustaining operations and ensuring that army could continue to fight effectively. And this situation underscored the critical importance of protecting logistical pathway in any military campaign, and as they are the arteries that keep an operations alive and functioning. Moving next we'll talk about the deployment of 3 Brigade Group. Friends, as we look back at the strategic decisions made during the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, one of the most impactful action was the deployment of 3 Brigade Group. And this move significantly strengthened the Indian Army ground force presence and the tactical capabilities in the key sectors along the line of control. And by bolstering these critical areas, the Indian Army enhanced its ability to respond rapidly to the emerging threats and maintain a strong defensive posture. Friends, imagine you are playing a game of chess where positioning your key pieces strategically on the board is crucial for controlling the game. The deployment of these brigade groups was like placing powerful pieces in the right spot, allowing the Indian Army to keep the enemy in check and secure the vital areas. Friends, by reinforcing the LOC with these brigade groups, the Indian Army not only ensured a robust defense, but also gained the flexibility to launch counter-attack if necessary. And this deployment allowed them to maintain dominance over critical sectors, preventing the enemy from gaining ground and ensuring that Indian forces could respond swiftly and effectively to any threat. Friends, how do you think that the reinforcing key areas with additional forces influenced the outcome of a military campaign? Just think of any situation, friends, where strategic positioning played a decisive role. Please do answer these all questions in the comment section. It will help you to understand the topic. Friends, the deployment of 3 Brigade Group was a decisive action that strengthened the Indian Army position along the line of control. And this strategic move enhanced the Army's tactical capabilities, enabling them to respond rapidly to the emerging threat and maintain control over key areas. The success of the deployment highlights the importance of strategic positioning and reinforcement in the military operations, ensuring that the forces on the ground are always ready to meet any challenges. Moving next friends, we'll talk about the focus on patrolling and commando action. Friends, in 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the Indian Army emphasized on patrolling and commando actions, which played a critical role in maintaining operational dominance and denying the enemy access to the strategic area. Friends, these targeted operations were not about presence, they were about exerting control, securing vital communication routes, and ensuring that the enemy could not gain a foothold in the key region. Friends, imagine you are managing a large state with numerous entry points, and to keep the intruders out, you don't just build walls, you actively patrol the ground, making sure that every corner is secure and any potential threats are quickly neutralized. And this proactive approach is what the Indian Army implemented through its focus on patrolling and commando action. Friends, do you think that the regular patrolling and specialized commando operations are essential for maintaining control in the conflict? Please do answer in the comment section. So friends, by conducting such a regular patrol and launching commando operations, the Indian Army could monitor and protect the crucial areas, especially along vital communication routes. And these actions prevented the enemy from infiltrating or disrupting these routes, which were essential for the movement of supplies and troops. And the ability to quickly respond to any sign of enemy activity kept the Indian forces one step ahead, ensuring that they could secure and maintain control over strategic points. Friends, the focus on patrolling and commando action was a strategic approach that enabled the Indian Army to maintain operational dominance in critical areas during the 1947-48 conflict. Friends, by denying the enemy access to the strategic locations and securing vital communication routes, these operations ensured that the Indian forces could continue to operate effectively and keep the regions under control. And this strategy highlights the importance of vigilance and proactive measures in military success, where maintaining control often depends on constant presence and readiness to act. Moving next, friends, during the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the reorganization and the re-equipping of state force troops was a crucial initiative that significantly improved the Indian Army ability to adapt to the harsh weather conditions and difficult terrain of the Kashmir region. And this strategic move was not just about upgrading equipment, it was about ensuring that troops were fully prepared to effectively deploy and sustain operation in one of the most challenging environments imaginable. Friends, imagine you are tasked with leading an expedition through a frozen wilderness, and to succeed, you wouldn't just need a determination, you would need a right gear, the right training, and a well-prepared team. Similarly, friends, the Indian Army recognized that to maintain their effectiveness in the treacherous condition of Kashmir, their troops need to be reorganized and re-equipped with their specialized tools and training. Friends, the reorganization involved not just restructuring the forces but also providing them with equipment suited for extreme cold and rugged terrain, like winter clothing, specialized weapons, and tools for navigating the mountains. Friends, how important do you think that it is to tailor military preparation to the specific challenges of an environment? Friends, can you think of any situation where adapting to the conditions was key to the success? Please do answer in the comments. Friends, the re-equipping ensured that the Indian forces could continue their operation without being hampered by the environment, maintaining their readiness and effectiveness in the face of difficult conditions. Friends, the reorganization and re-equipping of the state force troops was a vital step in enhancing the Indian Army adaptability to the harsh winter and the challenging terrain of the Kashmir during the 1947-48 conflict. And by preparing their forces with the right equipment and training, the Indian Army ensured that they could deploy and sustain their operations effectively, no matter how difficult the environment is. Friends, this strategic initiative highlights the importance of preparation and adaptability in military success, where the ability to overcome environmental challenges can make all the difference. Moving next we'll talk about the last, that is about summarize all the events. First, we'll talk about the prioritized defense of Kashmir Valley and Jammu. Friends, during 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, one of the most critical decisions was made by the Indian military leaders was to prioritize the defense of Kashmir Valley and Jammu. And this was not just a defensive measure, friends, it was a recognition of the strategic importance of these regions. Protecting Kashmir and Jammu was essential to safeguarding India from external threat and ensuring the stability of the entire region. Friends, imagine you are tasked with protecting a fortress that stands at the crossroad of multiple important routes. If you lose control of the fortress, friends, the entire area becomes vulnerable to invasion. And that's what the Kashmir Valley and Jammu represented. A strategic heartland that had to be defended at all costs. Friends, why do you think it is so crucial to prioritize the defense of Kashmir Valley and Jammu during the conflict? Just friends, think of any modern situations where securing key regions was vital to the national security. Please do answer in the comment section. Friends, the decision to focus on these areas was driven by their geographical and the strategic significance. The Kashmir Valley, with its mountainous terrain, served as a natural barrier, where Jammu was a critical gateway to the rest of the region. And by fortifying these areas, the Indian Army aimed to create a strong defensive line that could prevent enemy forces from making significant inroad into the heart of India. Friends, the decision to prioritize the defense of Kashmir Valley and Jammu was a strategic move that recognized the vital importance of these regions in the broader context of national security. And by focusing on safeguarding these key areas, friends, the Indian Army ensured that they could protect the rest of the country from external threats. And this approach highlights the importance of recognizing and defending strategic locations in any conflict, where the security of critical region can determine the outcome of a war. Next, we'll talk about focus on maintaining communication lines and strategic positions. That is, we can say that securing the lifelines of the battlefield. Friends, during the war 1947-48, Indo-Pakistani War, one of the Indian Army key priorities was to maintain control over vital communication lines and strategic positions. And these were not just ordinary routes and locations, they were the lifelines of the battlefield. So friends, by securing these critical communication routes, the Indian forces could ensure the smooth flow of supplies, reinforcement and information. And at the same time, denying the enemy access to these strategic areas was crucial in keeping them on the back foot and preventing any significant advantage. Friends, imagine you are managing a sprawling network of roads that connect all the major cities in the country. And if you lose control of these roads, the entire nation becomes disconnected, making it impossible to move goods or face people efficiently. Friends, the Indian Army faced a similar situation on the battlefield, where maintaining control of these routes was essential to sustain their operation. Friends, how important do you think that is to maintain a secure communication lines during the conflict? Please do answer in the comment section. Friends, by focusing on these key areas, the Indian Army ensured that the forces could stay connected, well supplied and ready to respond to any threats. And this control also meant that the enemy was constantly denied access to these strategic positions, limiting their ability to disrupt the Indian operation or launch the effective offensive. Friends, the emphasis on maintaining the communication lines and strategic positions was a crucial element of the Indian Army's strategy during the 1947-48 conflict. And by securing these vital routes and areas, the Indian forces were able to ensure operational continuity and keep the enemy at bay. And this approach underscored the importance of controlling key logistical and strategic points in any military operation, where the ability to move freely and deny the enemy access can make all the difference in the outcome of a conflict. Moving next we'll talk about the plan for sustained military action. Friends, in 1947-48 Indo-Pakistani War, the Indian Army plan for sustained military action was a critical part of their strategy. Recognizing the need for long-term success, they deployed specialized forces and reorganized state troops to enhance their adaptability and operational capabilities. And this was not just about winning the individual battles, it was about building a force that could endure the challenges of prolonged conflict and continue to operate effectively in a demanding environment. Friends, why do you think that it is important to plan for sustained action in the military campaign? Just relate your answer in any situation where long-term planning and adaptability were crucial for the success. Please do answer all these questions, friends, in your comment section. Try to relate with the present scenario, present ongoing wars. Friends, by deploying the specialized forces, the Indian Army ensured that they had units that could handle specific challenges such as difficult terrain and harsh weather conditions. Meanwhile, the reorganization of state troops allowed them to better integrate with the regular army, improving overall coordination and effectiveness. And this combination of specialized deployment and troop reorganization was key to maintaining a strong, adaptable and resilient force capable of sustaining operations over time. Friends, the plan for sustained military action through the deployment of specialized forces and reorganization of state troops was a strategic move that strengthened the Indian Army adaptability and operational capabilities. And this approach ensured that the forces were not only ready for immediate challenges but also prepared for the long-term demand of the conflict. It highlights the importance of building a force that can endure and thrive in the face of ongoing adversity, ensuring success over the long run. Friends, here we come to the end of chapter 5 part 1. Please do like, share and subscribe among your friends. Stay tuned for more updates.